In two people right now who are experts in counterterrorism. They have some information that's important. First is Aaron Cohen in Los Angeles, and then Jim Hansen in Washington, D.C. Jim, I want to begin with you because you know something about one of the suspects, I understand. Tell us.
Across the police scanners, Bill, the name Farouk Saeed came out as the suspect who went into this meeting/holiday party, left angrily, and they believed was the one who came back and initiated the shooting.
Do we know anything about Farouk Saeed? Do we know anything about him?
There's a lot of work being done. It's not that uncommon a name. So there's work being done to see if there are any connections between him, where he may be going to mosque. Are there any other indicators that this was an Islamist jihadist type attack?
All right, we got to be very careful here, Mr. Cohen. Very, very careful. If it is a terrorist attack generated by fanatical Muslims, it becomes an international Paris-type story with implications for the President of the United States on down. So we don't want to speculate. But do you have any information for us at all tonight, Mr. Cohen?
I train active shooter law enforcement around the country, Bill, and my sources have also said that there has been an Islamic name that was released and that's been given out as far as one of the attackers, compounded with the fact that the attackers went to a specific place for a specific reason with the type of tactical gear that would allow them to create maximum damage and then leave, also leads my sources to tell me that this could be a potential international related terror attack due to those specific things that I'm hearing from my sources on the ground. Again, these are people that I train specifically an active shooter, so this is what I'm hearing.
Okay. The problem with the story right now is that San Bernardino County, while a fairly sophisticated area, is not New York City or Los Angeles or Washington. And this facility that these men intruded upon, this is kind of just a regular neighborhood facility. It doesn't look like, you know, a statement that ISIS would make or something like that. Again, we're speculating, but I wanted to get both of your opinions on that. First, you, Mr. Hansen.
Bill, America is one giant soft target. So the idea of if ISIS wants to create the most fear, hitting us in places that are not iconic is the best way to do it. It brings everyone into play, and we are all now in play. So I think if this is an attack, and they don't have to be tied to ISIS, they can be inspired by ISIS, they can just be people who believe that jihad commands them to kill the infidels, and doing that anywhere, even if they are doing it in the furtherance of a personal beef, leads them to paradise, and that's what they're looking for. Okay.
Now, Mr. Cohen, we were going to do a report tonight with Rudy Giuliani, which, of course, we're not doing now because of the breaking news situation, that said a study out of George Washington University in Washington, D.C., pinpointed 300 social media people affiliated with ISIS, and 71 ISIS people have been arrested in the USA, those 300 in America as well. So they're already here. And I think all the counterterrorism experts know that, correct?
That's absolutely correct, Bill. The online radicalization has been ongoing for several years. ISIS is a terrorist group that has mastered the use of the internet just the same way celebrities use it to create their, you know, their careers in the media for music. And what we've seen now is how easy it is for ISIS to almost one-up Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is not going to be able to outdo 9/11, but ISIS knows that they can be very successful with incredible low sophistication, and that there is a pool of potential talent for them to tap into right here in this country against these soft targets like we're seeing in San Bernardino.
Yeah, but we don't want to, again, we don't want to carry it to a conclusion because we don't know. But I want to get back to Farouk Saeed, Mr. Hansen. You heard the name, again, over police transmissions, correct?
Yes, I did not hear it, but the sources we spoke to who reported that from L.A. said that that was the name that went across the police networks, and that was how they started the search for the suspect.
Okay, what sources were they?
Bill, they're folks in law enforcement. I don't have their names that I can give you right now.
But that information filtered its way to you. How did that happen?
That came across because the people who heard it were on the scanners, part of the actual tactical effort to find these shooters.
Okay, but how would you know that?
I know that because we spoke to them.
And you spoke to them why?
Because we were attempting to find out, A, were there any names in play, and B, once we could get a name like this, was there any way we could find any social media or other things that might lead us to believe that he left a suicide note or he did one of the other indicators of a jihadist attack? They're prone to doing those final
All right, so when you heard the name Faoud Saeed, did you check him? Did you run him down? Did you find anything about him?
We have not yet. Like I said, it's a common enough name that no one that I am aware of has yet come to a definitive answer. And at this point, it's only a name that was heard over the police scanner. It has not been confirmed.
No,
perhaps at the press conference,
I mean,
they might do that.
Everybody's trying to find out whether this is a domestic terrorism like Charleston, South Carolina, where just an irrational, crazy person goes in and shoots up a church full of people, or whether it's Islamic terrorism, because then the story becomes international. It becomes a story where, okay, here they come. All right, this is number one. And we have some information I want to give to the folks right now. According to the Washington Post, they're reporting this evening that a local law enforcement official confirms that ATF agents found what is believed to be a pipe bomb on one of the suspects. The official said the FBI is also looking into that case. So now we have, Mr. Cohen, reports of big weapons, gear that I guess you could buy anywhere, and a pipe bomb, which I guess you could make. Does that give you any clues at all?
Yeah, it gives me a lot of clues. One, if you look at the actual the vehicle takedown that was transpiring when the Bearcats were blocking in the SUV, it was obvious from watching the footage, as well as from my sources. And again, I've been very close to Southern California law enforcement for many years, and I get text messages from these guys because they want to make sure some of this information gets out in their own quiet way, if you will, because we communicate, Bill, in the tactical community. I've been a reserve deputy for 9 years and a SWAT instructor. We're always texting and keeping abroad. So the SUV, the tactics that were being deployed were specifically tailored for what we call a slow and deliberate clear, which meant that there was an explosive or a very strong possibility of an explosive on one of those persons in the vehicle. And from my sources, I'm hearing it was 2 suspects in the vehicle who had been engaged by law enforcement. You can tell from the shrapnel and the bullet holes in the front windshield, Bill, and that the robotics and that the clears were dedicated at removing an actual improvised explosive device from one of the suspects in that vehicle.
Does this have the earmarks or fingerprints of any particular operational organization? All right, so I'm asking the question again because you have a dual scenario here. You can have homegrown terrorists that we saw in Boston, Charleston, where they're just haters and they go in and they kill. And then you have the organized Islamic jihadists. Does this tell you anything, Mr. Cohen, the information that you have given us? Does it lead to one way or the other?
Yes, it does, Bill. It leads me to believe that there's a very strong connection, in my professional opinion, to Islamic-motivated international terror. The reason why is because it has the same print as the Bataclan-style attack where Saleh Abdel Salam opened fire on a group of innocents, well-prepared, well-equipped, armed with Kalashnikov rifles that are very easy to get in, and then left and retreated to Belgium, where he then was able to either continue on with carrying out terror or until he was engaged. And so you have this group of subjects who performed a very similar type of attack. They went in, they opened fire, and they left, and they did it, Bill, in under 5 minutes. That means to me that was premeditation.
So you are drawing parallels from San Bernardino to Paris, Mr. Cohen. That's what you're doing right now.
Absolutely.
Do you concur, Mr. Hansen?
Without a doubt. I think this absolutely has the earmarks of the same type of attack. But even more scary, Bill, is the fact that this has the ability to happen anywhere. This doesn't have to be internationally inspired because they've seen how to do it. They know how to do it. We had the Boston Marathon guys. We had Major Hassan at Fort Hood. This has happened before in the United States, but now we've got foreign groups like ISIS calling for it to happen, inspiring people in the United States who are already here, whether they infiltrated as ISIS operatives or whether they simply were radicalized in a mosque that's preaching jihad or did it themselves online. They could be anywhere. They are among us, and consequently, that makes all Americans targets. And this is going to become a bigger problem, and more of this is going to happen.
Yeah, and it's impossible to stop in a free society. But if these individuals who killed the 14 people and wounded 17 others are found to have ISIS ties, and, you know, obviously they'll go over their computers, they'll look at their backgrounds, they'll find out how they got in here, who they associated with. The FBI is excellent at that. Then the pressure now becomes on more to take ISIS off the map. So that's that story. But if it's a Boston Marathon, two crazy brothers who think that they're going to kill innocent people and advance the cause of jihad, then the story takes on another angle, in the sense that you can't stop it in a free society. You just can't. And unfortunately, that's what the case is. Now, Mr. Cohen, you have made your reputation in Israel, correct?
Correct. I served in Israel's
right.
counter-terror unit.
So Israel is a country that every single day of its existence there could be a terror attack. The people of Israel know that. Do they have a different mentality than we Americans have?
Yeah, they do. Israelis, regardless of where they stand politically, understand the motivation of radically fundamental ideologues who can't be talked to normally, because when you're dealing with that type of ideology, there's no logic. It's a delusional mentality, and regardless of where Israelis stand, national security is always taken seriously. Everybody serves in the military. Citizens, when permitted, often carry weapons. We rely on our citizenry in Israel to respond, as we've seen with all these crazy knife attacks in the last month, and it's because Israel is a very socially security conscious society that we don't have as much terrorism as there would be if they weren't the way we were.
So let me
Israel.
paraphrase. So you're saying because Israelis, who are pretty robust in their political differences, all right, because they all come together on this issue, protecting themselves from terrorism, it's easier for the government to do that, while we in America are divided along ideological lines on how to attack ISIS, what to do with the jihad. As you both know, our president won't even mention the word jihad. So it makes it more difficult for the country to unite around a single strategy to protect ourselves. Would that be an accurate assessment, Mr. Hansen?
It is absolutely the problem, Bill. It is the difficulty of a free democratic society that does not feel as under siege as the Israelis do. But there are things we can do. The president at this point has to be told in no uncertain terms his job is to kill ISIS and to cut down the black flag, as the Center for Security Policy's plan to kill ISIS calls for. But we can also do things here in the United States. They're difficult, they're painful, but they need to be done. We commissioned a study and published it in a peer-reviewed journal of 100 mosques in the United States. Out of those randomly chosen mosques, 80 of them were either preaching jihad or had jihadist literature available. Those things are not compatible with a free society. And at some point, the safety of our citizens demands that it's not freedom of religion if the religion you're preaching is preaching violence. And that's something we need to do.
Mr. Cohen, I'll give you the last word on it.
Well, there's three things we need to do here, Bill. We have to call this thing what it is, and I absolutely agree with you gentlemen from the center. Call this thing what it is, which is Islamic fundamental radicalized terrorists. 2, get aggressive overseas, and 3, start to get aggressive with our preventative measures here in the United States. Otherwise, we're going to see a lot more of what we saw today in San Bernardino.
All right.